You spent decades saving for retirement. Don't let these 5 mistakes quietly undo all your hard work. First mistake I see all the time is ignoring tax planning. Most people spend their entire career stuffing money into their pre-tax retirement accounts, 401k, IRAs. You got the tax deduction. That money grew tax-free. That's great. But there's a catch. The IRS, they're going to get their share eventually. The only question is when and how much. If you don't have a strategy, they're going to take more than they need to. There's a window between when you retire and when required minimum distributions kick in, sometimes called RMDs, which is just when you have to start withdrawing from those accounts, whether you want to or not. For most people, this window is going to be somewhere between age 60 and 73. Annual income during this period is often lower than it's ever been and lower than it ever will be again. So that's the typical planning window, and most people, they waste it. There are 3 things here the IRS hopes you never figure out. First, Roth conversions. All the Roth conversion means is moving money from one of those pre-tax retirement accounts into a Roth account. You want to do that when you're in the lowest bracket, so you pay the least tax. I did a case study on this if you want to know more. I'll link it for you. Second is asset location. Which investments live in which accounts matters for tax efficiency. The third one, withdrawal sequencing. The order that you pull money out of these accounts can save or cost you thousands. I've got a video showing the benefits of the last 2, if you want to watch that. Working with a fiduciary advisor who focuses on tax planning, like Glow Financial Planning, ensures that you don't retire without a tax plan. There's a link down below if you want to schedule a free consultation and you need some help with this. If you're more of a do-it-yourself person, then consider working with an advisor who provides hourly consulting services. And they can check your work. I'll put a link to NAPFA's website below. This is a group of advisors who've taken a fiduciary oath, and they're not going to try to sell you products or earn a commission. It's a great place to search for someone if you want someone to do hourly or project work. A tax strategy needs to be a core component of your retirement plan. It shouldn't just be an afterthought. Now, mistake number 2, not having an actual spending plan. I've talked with so many people who've saved for 30 years and have no idea what they're going to spend in retirement. When I ask them, well, what do you need each month? I'll typically get like a shrug and we'll figure it out. If that's you, no problem, no shame. I didn't know what any of this meant either until someone taught me. Now, research shows that annual retirement spending, it's not a one number. There's a pattern here. It's called the retirement spending smile. In early retirement years, you're going to spend more. You're traveling, you're active, you're doing everything that you couldn't do before. By about your mid-70s, your spending will typically dip down because you're slowing down. And then at the end of retirement, it's going to go back up. Healthcare costs and long-term care coverage. Your plan, it needs to account for this shape, but that's not the end of the story. Knowing that information alone, it's not going to be enough. You'll need to decide how you want to take money out of your portfolio. Each strategy has its pros and cons. The first one is a fixed dollar amount. This strategy, you're going to start with a number of what you need and then typically adjust that up each year for inflation. The most common example here is the 4% rule. Then we have the fixed percent approach. That means taking a percent of whatever your portfolio is worth each year. Generally, you got to start with a smaller percentage of your portfolio with this approach than the fixed dollar approach. Lastly, we have the guardrails approach. The amount you withdraw each year here changes with the performance of your portfolio. This key here is to set a floor and a ceiling. So you're always going to be withdrawing a number in those guardrails, even if the market takes off or when it crashes. So which is right? Depends on your situation. The fix here is just to understand your withdrawal strategy and know when to make adjustments. It's not going to be a set it and forget it number. I highly recommend reading this book here by Bill Bangan. He's the creator of the 4% rule, and this is his updated research. It's called A Richer Retirement, Supercharging the 4% Rule so you can spend more and enjoy more. I'll be doing a full video on the 4% rule here soon, so click subscribe if you don't want to miss it. Now we have mistake number 3, and this one has nothing to do with money. People retiring away from something instead of to something are often going to find out that the grass isn't always greener. For better or worse, here in America, most people are going to spend 30, 40 years with structure, purpose, identity, and it's all tied to their careers. You know, they were engineers, a lawyer, a doctor, manager, vice president. One day they wake up, they're just Greg. Nothing against all the Gregs out there, but I had to pick a name. There's nothing on their calendar. No one expects them to be anywhere. And the first few weeks, they feel amazing. Maybe it lasts a couple months. It's like a vacation that never ends, right? That novelty, it's gonna wear off. You can start to feel a bit untethered. I see this hit hardest with people who retire early, especially if they're retiring before their peers and friends. What I like to tell people approaching this decision is go ahead and practice retirement before you make the jump. Take some extended time off while you're still employed and test drive all the hobbies that you think you're gonna love in retirement. See if your spouse is ready for you to be home 24/7. Figure out what you're running toward, not just what you're escaping. Now, the best retirements I see aren't from people escaping work. They're gonna be from people who just couldn't wait to start something else. So now we're on mistake number 4, waiting too long to retire out of fear. This is kind of the flip side of mistake 3. Once you know what you're retiring to, you have to actually go and do it. I've seen people who could retire at 60, their math works fine, the plan is solid, and they're gonna work till 67 anyways, just to be safe, right? Well, the math says go, their emotions, they say 1 more year. 1 year turns into 2, 2 turns into 5. I don't mean to downplay anybody's fear here. Running out of money, it's a real concern. But that fear, when you look at the math, it's often overblown. You can stress test your plan against bad markets, high inflation, even living longer than you expected, and most people are often in better shape than they feel like they are. Your 60s and your early 70s are often going to be the healthiest and most active years of your retirement. You've got your energy, you've got your mobility, you can do things, but unfortunately that window will close, and when it closes, it can close fast. The fix here is to get clear on what your retirement will look like. Get a plan, a real plan, stress tested by somebody who has got your best interest at heart. When you see it clearly, the decision, it can be a little easier. A good financial plan needs to give you permission to retire, not just to chase a number. At the end of your life, are you going to be more upset that your 401k never hit that big number that you were dreaming of, or if you never got to do all the things you wanted to do? All right, back on the money front. Mistake number 5, underestimating healthcare costs in retirement. Medicare, as I'm sure you know, doesn't start till 65. And I know I just told you to go for it. So if you're retiring at age 58 or 60, what's going to be your plan for the gap? A lot of people I talk to assume they're going to hop on the ACA marketplace and get coverage. But they're shocked by the cost, especially now that the subsidies are ending. A couple in their early 60s earning around $85,000 a year can face premiums over $20,000 if the enhanced tax credits expire, which it seems like they're likely to do. Even with the subsidies, that same couple could be looking to pay $1,000 to $1,500 a month. That's a real line item a lot of people are going to skip over. Now, withdrawing too much money out of your portfolio at the beginning of retirement is a real concern. It's called sequence of returns risk. This needs to be stress tested for. Unexpected medical expenses can be a major catalyst of those withdrawals. Now, unfortunately, in America, we don't just have to worry about medical costs at the start of retirement, but we also have to think about the end. Remember the spending smile I mentioned? Medicare, it doesn't cover long-term care, like a nursing home, assisted living, or home health aid. The cost for these services can be staggering, and they're growing rapidly. A private room in a nursing home right now averages about $127,000 a year. Assisted living, $71,000. Home health aid, $78,000. These can vary widely and they're based on where you live, but compare that to the average Social Security benefit of about $22,000. Now, 70% of people turning 65 this year are going to need some form of long-term care at some point in their life. The average duration of that is going to be 3 years. And I don't want to say this just to scare you, but these costs can wipe out a lifetime of savings if you're not prepared for them. So the solution here is just to get clear on your numbers, especially if you're retiring early. Make sure your plan includes healthcare numbers for any gap years and end-of-life coverage. These aren't optional line items. So those are the 5 most common retirement mistakes I see. Ignoring the tax planning, skipping a spending plan, retiring away from a job instead of to something they want to do, waiting too long to retire out of fear of running out of money, and underestimating healthcare costs in retirement. The good news is here, you're already ahead of the game. You're already thinking about this stuff. Retirement planning isn't about getting every little detail perfect. It's about being intentional, making decisions beforehand instead of just letting things happen to you. If this was helpful, I'd love to have you subscribe to my channel. I put out videos every week with real strategies, no fluff, just to help you retire with confidence. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Jordan Drinkhouse, and I'll see you in the next one.